Hi, welcome to Pennsylvania Newsmakers, and as always, thanks for watching. Well, the state continues to have a huge funding problem with the roads and bridges. Industry experts will explain, and then guess what? You won't believe this. Bonus gate trials, public corruption continuing, and a legislator, a former Speaker of the House, challenges the Attorney General, put me on trial before my election. That and more, Pennsylvania politics, in depth and in detail, and guess what? It all starts right now.
This is Pennsylvania Newsmakers, a fast-paced, unrehearsed weekly discussion with and about the leaders who shape your world. And now, here's your host, Terry Madonna.
Hi, welcome back to the program. We're going to get right to it. There is no doubt about it. The state of Pennsylvania has a huge infrastructure problem. 7,000 miles of roads in bad shape, 5,600 bridges that are in some kind of structural disrepair, I'll put it that way, or deficient bridges, if you will. Joining me, as often is the case, sitting right across from me is Bob Latham. He's the Executive VP with Associated Pennsylvania Constructors, and Barry Schoch. He is the President of the Pennsylvania Highway Information Association. All right, let's get started right away. I want to turn to you, Bob. Look, get into the details of the magnitude of this problem for our viewers. About, you drive on the roads, we can see it. You go to bridges,
Terry, we've talked about the statistics before. We've had a transportation advisory committee that's looked at this and put the level at about $3.5 billion that we haven't spent. Now that's a big number, and everybody glosses over that. But what does that really mean? It means safety. We have bridges that need repair. We have rural roads that need safety improvements. It means quality of life, convenience. We were late getting here for the interview, for the taping today, for the show today, because we got stuck in traffic on I-83 because of an incident. That road needs to be worked on. We need to look at the future as well as our backlog.
Now I want to talk. I know you all were at a meeting with Governor Rendell earlier in the week, and I want to get to that and some of the ideas for handling the funding. But Barry, let me look. You're a business guy. You understand this. How important is this? I mean, we can argue about taxes and all of that, but without a modern infrastructure, businesses, we want people to come in, start a business, am I right?
Businesses rely on being able to get their people reliably across the state, and we compete with other states. Yeah. When a business looks at moving to Pennsylvania, it's can their employees get to work in a reliable trip time? Can they get their products in and out of their business in a reliable time? What's the ultimate cost, including the time spent in congestion? So transportation is a very key resource for businesses.
The other thing that we've talked about with other folks on here is that the Marcellus Shale. We don't need to get into the whole business of taxes and all that. Other people can do that. But look, that means a lot of folks traveling, particularly to go to Bob's point, rural roads, right? Rural roads with fairly large rigs and other kinds of transportation vehicles, and roads that probably aren't equipped or were never built for that purpose.
Weren't intended for that use and haven't been addressed to deal with that use. So you need the investment, you need the revenue sources to actually transport that gas, that resource we're all so excited about, in and out of Pennsylvania.
All right, well, let's turn then to the big question.
Sure.
You all had it. Look, there have been all sorts of funding ideas. We've been talking about them, lease the turnpike, sell the turnpike, toll Route 80, we've been through the mill on them. You had a meeting with the governor this past week and lay out what you think are some feasible options for dealing with this problem.
Well, Terry, I think we have to look at the history and where we are. We haven't really addressed this issue for 13 years. I mean, people talk about the gas tax and people talk about fees, and those are the main funding sources that go into paying for transportation, roads in particular. We have something in the Commonwealth called the oil company franchise tax. Hasn't been touched since 1997. If you just adjusted that for inflation up to where it ought to be, in other words, if we had just adjusted it on an annual basis.
Now, is that one of the ideas you talked about?
This is one of the ideas that we're talking about, is adjusting that oil company franchise tax, and that would raise about $900 million a year. It doesn't get you the whole way there. The other thing is we have some very disparate registration fees. If you drive a Cadillac Escalade, for example, you
don't,
pay,
by the way. I want to point that out.
Okay, I thought you did.
No.
Okay, but if you did, you'd pay $36 a registration fee for that vehicle. A light-duty pickup truck is $58. It weighs less.
Right, yeah.
The other thing we've got to look at is fuel efficiency. It's starting to eat into the gas tax. So if we raise the gas tax, then the flat tax, really just to get back that funding source for fuel efficiency and really adjust that, it's not really a tax increase. It's really just an adjustment for fuel efficiency.
Okay,
those are some of the ideas that could get us a part of the way there.
All right, we're going to run to a break. When I come back, I want to ask you about a couple of other possibilities and see if you chatted with the governor, and then we can talk a little bit about what all you think needs to be done and how you're going to get the legislature to do this, given the fact we have an election. We do? We have an election coming up here shortly. All right, back in a moment.
This broadcast of Pennsylvania Newsmakers is presented by the Pennsylvania Chamber of Business and Industry, the statewide voice of business, and by the Pennsylvania Cyber Charter School, bringing educational innovation and freedom to the children of Pennsylvania. This broadcast of Pennsylvania Newsmakers is presented by PAConstructionJobs.com. For more information about rewarding careers in the highway construction industry, visit PAConstructionJobs.com. And by the Pennsylvania Manufacturers Association. Business in Pennsylvania is our business.
Hi, welcome back to the program. Well, the governor has called a special session for the legislature, supposed to start at the end of August, not likely to do much until early September. Huge issue, infrastructure, roads, bridges. We're talking about some of the possible solutions. All right, we got the motor license and vehicle, those fees, and then we have the oil franchise tax. What other aspects of this have you and the governor chatted about, or just what you think might work?
Well, we talked with the governor and the legislature about public-private partnerships. Many countries in the world and other states are using private money to invest in transportation. We don't currently have enabling legislation to allow private companies to come in and invest in Pennsylvania. They bring ideas, they bring new revenue sources, and they can be a part of the solution. Now, it is a public-private partnership, so even in that venue with private money coming in, you still need additional public money to match that private money.
How would that work? I mean, just sort of lay it out. Would a private
company would raise capital on Wall Street, just like any other private bond issue. That's that sort of thing. They'd bring so much to the table. The state would bring so much to the table, and really, what this is mostly used for are new projects, new or either new or expanded construction projects. Like you could expand I-81 from Carlisle to the Maryland line that way.
So
but
the businesses would get the benefit of the.
Well, they would run the toll. They would get the thing is that people don't understand is at the end of this, it's a toll road. I mean, they have to recoup their investment somehow. Okay. And that's how these are generally done, by tolling. It's a private toll authority.
Tolling Route 80, done. Gone. History. Don't bring it up. I mean, you know what I mean.
Well, it's done.
Is it possible? I'm just trying to hold out.
Is it possible? Well, I think it could be possible. We don't have a federal reauthorization right now of transportation. Right. The federal government controls, as we learned, very directly, the tolling of interstates and the interstate system. If they allow it in the future on all interstates as part of a broader recognition that our energy policies are driving us away from consumption of gasoline and other fuels.
And they might do that given the budgetary problems that it looks like we're stuck here with a huge debt and deficits. They're different things for a long, long time, right?
They're putting it back to the states, and if they're going to put it back to the states to make decisions about how to finance it, they generally would be giving more options to the states by allowing flexibility.
Now, so the legislature will come back beginning of the, who knows when they'll come back. We'll talk about late August, beginning of September. We don't have to go. Okay. How optimistic are you about a solution?
Well, I'm much more optimistic today than I was maybe 2 weeks ago. The governor is starting a tour around the state, but even more importantly than that, I think that the administration is starting to engage the legislature in talks on, number one, not just on funding sources, but on priorities. And that's very important. It's very important that legislators have an opportunity to provide input as to what goes on in their district. It's their
because
district.
They know the roads and bridges.
They know the roads, and they need to be consulted on what those priorities are. That seems to be happening now. Okay. So if those pieces can be put together, we don't see peril for this even in an election year. If the size of the package is enough that it can address public transit, can address PennDOT's needs and local roads, there is a huge coalition of people, of organizations that are behind this. The media, I haven't read a story in the general media that doesn't say, let's do it.
Oh, I agree.
So where's the peril in the vote?
Yeah. And you have a coalition that's actively pursuing this objective, is that correct?
We do. The Keystone Coalition. It's a very broad coalition, and it goes beyond what you might consider the interested parties, like contractors and engineers. It's got suppliers, manufacturers, AARP, transit agencies, unions, folks who, as you mentioned to me earlier about a business question, folks who rely on the transportation system to get their employees back and forth to work or to get their products in and out of the state.
Yeah, before I let you guys go, I mean, look, I think we can argue over stimulus and we can argue over, extending unemployment compensation, but I don't think there is any doubt, and you and I have been through this now, without modernizing these roads, the ability to create new jobs
Absolutely.
is just going to be so limited that it's just short-sighted. Now, I know I'm supposed to be a little neutral here, but go ahead. I'll give you the last word.
And on the public side, we have a state-specific study that shows that we could create 50,000 new jobs by proper investment. Most not in the construction area, but in other sectors, like manufacturing.
Coming up, this is a story you won't believe. How about this? Clairvoyants, where do they come from? In politics in Pennsylvania? No way. And then a state lawmaker has challenged the Attorney General of the state, Tom Corbett, to guess what? Put me on trial before the election. Things are heating up in Harrisburg, and we're here to help you out. That and more following these words.
This broadcast of Pennsylvania Newsmakers is brought to you by Pennsylvania Credit Union Association. Pennsylvania Credit Unions, where people are worth more than money. To find a credit union that is right for you, check out ibelong.org. And by the Energy Association of Pennsylvania, Pennsylvania's energy information source. This broadcast of Pennsylvania Newsmakers is presented by the State System of Higher Education. 14 state-owned universities. The state system is the largest provider of higher education in Pennsylvania. And by the Hospital and Health System Association of Pennsylvania, working towards a healthy Pennsylvania.
Hi, welcome back to the program. Well, we have joining us two of the state's leading journalists. They cover the state capitol for their respective organizations. Matt Belanger, sitting across from me from WGAL-TV, and Brad Bumsted with the Pittsburgh Tribune Review. All right, listen, Matt, this was a huge week. Last week, pre-trial hearings. Bill DeWeese, a former Speaker of the House, bound over for trial. Explain.
Well, it's the same thing that's been happening all along. It's hard to believe it's all one consistent investigation, but it's Attorney General Tom Corbett's looking into public money being spent to campaign, and there's a low burden here for these hearings, and a lot of people have been pushed through to trial. And it's the same thing that happened with Bill DeWeese. The district judge heard it all and said, yeah, sure, this is enough to take to trial.
But now, wait a minute. Also, after the hearing, Bill DeWeese publicly says, I challenge the Attorney General to put me on trial in October. What's
That's
that
exactly
about?
right. DeWeese is saying, come on.
Bring it on.
To Corbett.
He's
daring him to try to, go to trial before the general election when Corbett is on the ballot for governor. Now, whether that actually happens, I sort of doubt it. But DeWeese is saying, he would play that card. He believes in enough in his case that he would take a shot at it. So I think the reasoning there is, look, if he loses, he's going to have to resign anyway, whether it's in October or January.
But Matt, at the moment, these trials are all put off until after the election. I mean, there's no plans that you know of. No, to put these on before.
Not that I've heard of, Brad.
Brad?
No.
Okay. All right. Now listen. This gets a little strange, even by Harrisburg standards. We have a lawmaker, a state senator from Allegheny County named Jane Orey. Grand jury presentment says she should be charged for a variety of public corruption. Back to Matt's stuff, right? They have the pre-trial. Last week, a bunch of people testify. Now, not related to that, in a sense. But we learned through the whole process of having this pre-trial go on that she does what?
That she has contact with angel ladies.
You have to explain that to me.
Well, I don't completely know exactly what they are, but these are people who are in contact with angels or other spirits.
Are they clairvoyants or psychics or no?
They are clairvoyant. Apparently there's more than one of them involved in all of this. Now, this didn't come out of testimony.
What?
It came out it was filed in the probable cause affidavits, and investigators discovered it in emails. For instance, one of the angel ladies had asked for a state job. There's no evidence that
and somebody
the person
called
got
through
one.
whatever it was, 76,000 state workers' names or something
Well,
on
yeah,
some
that
big
was in the
list.
story we did. We called
Yeah,
the
you
governor's
did. You
office
broke
and
the
said,
story,
does
yeah.
this woman, who is identified as the angel lady, have a state job? And they're able to do a quick search of the database for all state employees. She doesn't.
I'm going to get this wrong, but the clairvoyant was supposed to have given them information about the motives or the meetings behind the DA in Allegheny County who was bringing these charges.
That's
right. What?
And keep in mind, this is distinct from the DeWeese case, and
Right.
it's filed by the Allegheny County DA, not Corbett.
But
it's very similar allegations to those that exist against DeWeese. And the idea was that this angel lady was allegedly going to tell Senator Ori and her sister what the outcome of a meeting would be, where an intermediary was going to go meet with the DA and allegedly tell the DA that they would come down hard on him if he filed the charges.
All right, we're going to run to break. When I come back, I'll start with Matt. I want to get into this $850 million. We'll let you. We'll get you lead off. So we've got 25 people that are facing these charges. What? 12 of them have been adjudicated. It's got the Attorney General has 10 convictions out of 12, if I understand. Some of them have pled out. So we've got another 13 for the Attorney General. And now we've got one out in Allegheny County. Two. Go. Oh, that's right.
Because one is a Supreme Court employee.
Oh, one is the sister of the current state senator, whose name is Janine.
Right.
We got that right?
That's correct.
All right. When we come back, $850 million. If the state doesn't get it, it's going to play havoc. It's federal government, Medicaid money. If the state doesn't get it, it's going to play you know what with the state budget. Back in a moment.
This broadcast of Pennsylvania Newsmakers is presented by Highmark Blue Shield, changing the way health plans work for business with a variety of plan options for employers and more choices for employees. Information is available at highmark.com. Have a greater hand in your company's health. And by the Pennsylvania Healthcare Association, the future of long-term care.
Hi, welcome back to the program. Matt Belanger and Brad Bumsted, both of them are journalists. All right, we're going to move away from angel ladies to something obviously a lot more serious. All right, Matt, $850 million state budget needs it. It's tied up in the temporary Medicaid money. Governor's calling. Go ahead. You explain this to our viewers.
I mean, I think the state budget agreement that was hashed out, it's been described by many as kind of a budget of convenience. Anything that was kind of up in the air or, say, controversial by any means was put off. And here's one that's already coming due. This $850 million in assistance to states from the federal government to help pay for Medicaid was in there. The budget's balanced using it, and even though Congress has put off now deciding whether or not to pass till September, it's not a guarantee that we're going to get any of that money.
Well, the bigger point is that even when they've tried to move a bill in the Senate, it was substantially less than the $22 billion of which we would get $850 million. So do you get any sense that there's going to be $850 million? Is it possible we could get substantially less?
I mean, I don't want to make any predictions here, but I think it would be very reasonable to expect if it's going to pass at all, it would probably be less than the $850 million.
And the legislator's not likely to take up any new taxes before elections, so... And what's going on with the governor? The governor's doing something when?
He's meeting with legislative leaders this coming week, and he's going to be going over basically cuts that will have to be made because taxes aren't going to be raised and they aren't going to get the money. Now, of course, one needs to say it was the governor who insisted that we were going to get the $850 million. Legislators kept telling him, no, this isn't going to, it's not going to happen.
Right.
And if you wanted to be really cynical, one might suspect that Rendell did this because this will now enable him to be able to make the cuts.
All right, we learned we're going to switch to our final topic. We learned a couple months ago that there was a unit within PennDOT that served the legislators as they were trying to help out their constituents on license applications and all that. We now learn that this unit has processed 220,000 licenses on behalf of House and Senate staffers who said, my boss, the lawmaker has this need to get this service provided for their constituents, license renewals and applications and that sort of thing. What did the governor say a couple of weeks ago?
As soon as it came to light, he said, this needs to be abolished. This needs to be dissolved right away because it's duplication of services that people can get just by going to PennDOT directly. And apparently,
is there any evidence? Have you seen any evidence that this unit is ended? It's over? That it's gone?
No.
And the fact of the matter is, how controversial is this? Does anyone really care?
It's not a huge. Legislators really care.
Yeah.
They were hopped up about this. I mean, a lot of legislators were angry. The way it happened, they were mad that Governor Rendell just made the decision unilaterally, didn't talk to them, and said, we're getting rid of it. But to his credit, the grand jury had criticized this. It looked like a waste. It walked like a waste of money. So he acted.
And the whole point is the whole point about this that there are PennDOT offices that are supposed to do that routinely?
You mean perform these services?
Yeah,
you can go to PennDOT and get everything done that these legislative extra folks that some describe them as are doing for constituents.
But let me defend it just for a moment. Sure. You guys take another side if you want. There are many places in rural Pennsylvania where it's not convenient to get to a PennDOT office, so lawmakers would say, Brad Bumsted, that, gee, somebody has to drive an hour and a half where I have an office in a district right in a neighborhood or, nearby. Is that a defense of this?
It used to be. I think it was a valid thing.
Yeah.
But things have changed now. You can go online with PennDOT and take care of most of your services. Okay, old people don't have computers, some of them. You could say that. A legislator could say, come into my office, we'll do it online, we'll take care of it.
But 220,000, that number just stunned me. And all that was a story broken by Pete DeCourcy from Capitol Wire. Go ahead. Last word.
Part of the reason that this has been set up, the grand jury said, is it inures to the political benefit of legislators. They're doing this. This is a way they can take care of people.
It's tangible.
Yes.
This is a tangible result. Hey, my guy's doing me something right here that I can benefit
All right,
from.
Matt gets the last word. All right, thanks for watching this edition of Pennsylvania Newsmakers, and as always, stay well.